So it's not about knowing everything that's going on. That's not what they're there to do. And it's the same with a cutover manager or project. You're not there to know every finite detail, but it's about being present and decisive, and therefore people will trust you. Any transformation program, change program is for a reason, and it's remembering what that reason is. And this is where your leaders can play a big part, is because they were part of that decision. Decisions been made, they're going for this change. You can be as negative as you want, but it's going to be here. So therefore, you're better off embracing, become the lead, become the face of the change as opposed to the negative, and it will see you right. It will see you good. Be there, be seen, and be enthusiastic and want to be part of it, but don't interfere. Be a finance leader, operations leader, or the COO. And then when we need you, be there for your teams, for your employees.
Hey, welcome to the Leaders Podcast with me, Laura McDonald, the leadership coach and mentor. Come with me as I explore the elements of leadership that give leaders like you the power and confidence to make the impact you know you can. I'll be sharing my own experiences, top tips and insights, and talking to some very special guests to share their thoughts and leadership experiences on mindset, influence, change and growth. So let's get right to it. Speaking to this person is always a pleasure. I'm delighted to welcome today Paddy Roberts, specialist in cutover management, transition and deployment management, and change and transformation. Welcome to the Leaders Podcast, Paddy.
Hello, thank you, Laura. Thank you for having me.
Not a problem. So before we start, I'm on a little mission at the moment to share ways in which leaders can serve themselves so they can serve others better. So I have a little question for you that I ask all my guests. What have you done to serve yourself in the last 24 hours?
That's a very good question. The last 24 hours, I cooked to serve myself. There you go. It was Easter over the weekend, and I did I did a slow cooked steak cottage pie. So rather than the traditional mince, I used proper steak and slow cooked it with all the herbs and everything overnight, with some red wine in there as well, just to give it some added taste. So that was Easter Sunday meal. But prior to that, I did my first attempt at a chicken roulade, which is chicken wrapped up with cheese and ham, and then a sauce made from Campbell's chicken soup, no less. Some sour cream and lemon juice put in just to get rid of the tang. Mixed it all up, and then the chicken roulade. And then my wife's on a diet at the moment, low carb, so she didn't have breadcrumbs, but I had special coated breadcrumbs with a bit of chili going through it as well. So yeah, so that was, I don't know if that answers your question, but that's what I did for myself and my wife this weekend.
Oh, definitely. That sounds amazing. You're gonna have to send me those recipes. Just an FYI. Do you cook a lot? Do you like cooking?
I love the weekend cooking. I'm not very good during the week, but my relaxation on a Saturday is what we're going to cook, what am I going to cook. So then go and get all the ingredients, walk the dogs, bring them back, and then open a bottle late afternoon and do all the prep. I like the prepping. We do it in the kitchen. It's a time. My wife's doing some work in there, so we catch up on bits and bobs. Do all that, get it ready, and then enjoy it, and then sit down for the evening afterwards. So yeah, it's my chill out time. Try and different things, but generally it's chilies or curries or other such wonders.
Yeah, no, definitely not cooking myself. It's just nice to be able to take your time over a recipe, isn't it? And just it's almost like a zone out time for me. So I like to look up little recipes here and there, and I found a really good one a few years ago, and it was like a whole rainbow trout, and it's stuffed with like mushrooms, shallots, and spinach, and then topped with like a tomato and cucumber salsa.
Right, nice.
It's really, really nice. So you just sort of serve the whole fish on the plate. And some people find that a bit weird because they're like, oh, I don't eat anything with a face. But
Well,
but it is actually really nice.
I can't say you eat something with a face every day, but yeah.
No, definitely not. But no, but that was a good one. Yeah, definitely. No, I do like cooking. It's relaxing.
I like the big occasions as well. So I do the Christmas dinner for the family. So it's about 12 people around on Christmas Day and do that. And to me, again, it's all about the prepping. And I start cooking my stuffings from about September onwards. So I always have 3 different stuffings at Christmas. And I still buy the magazine, still buy the books, and still look online for new ways, but I always end up doing the same stuffings, but slightly tweaked each time. And then they go in the freezer ready. And then have a spreadsheet for the big day as well with the timings and which ovens to use, etc. So it's all part of it, isn't it?
Amazing. So there's the key question then. Are you a traditional turkey man, or do you do different stuff at Christmas?
I keep trying to do different stuff. I would like to do different stuff, but no, the family at the moment. I used to get a free turkey, so it's always turkey. When I worked for a company in Four Ports, they gave you a free turkey as a Christmas perk. Thousands of people worked for them, and this guy in a van, Norfolk, free-range gold turkey, would deliver them around the ports leading up to Christmas. So, and it was a good one. It would feed the family, feed everybody, and still only be half used. So it was massive. I can't remember, 6, 7, 8 kilos. It was really big, and it was a good deal. So because we were getting that every year, and sometimes we'll get 2, but mostly just the 1, then yeah, we stick with turkeys. I would like to move on to try something different, but no. So even now, I don't no longer work for them, and I have to go out and buy my own turkey. Then it's where we stick to turkey. It's nice. I enjoy it.
Oh, definitely. I have to admit, I'm quite lucky. I think most of my family have moved on from turkey, so we're okay. We get to try different things. We've had like beef Wellington and stuffed partridge and all this other stuff. So yeah, it's been really, really good.
Yeah, it'd be good.
Definitely. Good to know. Okay, so a bit more about you then. So what's your journey? How did you get to where you are now professionally?
Well, my journey, yeah. Well, I left school, college. I didn't do university. I missed out all of that, and became eventually, after nearly getting a job on a pirate radio station back in the day, Laser 558. For any of your listeners that know about that, missed out by a few weeks before they got towed off the North Sea. So maybe things would have been very different if I'd managed to get that job. Anyway, I became what they call a professional computer trainee at the local council. Massive panel of people interviewing me. So that was good fun, not. But it was a good stepping stone, because it was 3 years where you learned all the different aspects of computers in those days. So there was operations, there was keying. I sat there for 6 months just keying in invoices and credit notes, programming, of course, and then general management of it. And that kind of got me into that field, and it was probably the only thing I kind of did at school that I knew and was qualified in. So I stuck that out for a few years, and from there, after leaving home, I then went into development, like a lot of people did my age. It was the up and coming thing. It was just, I was lucky, right time, right place. Got through, did development for quite a few years. It was great, but it just wasn't fulfilling me. So that led me through to project management. Learning about how to be a PM and a good PM. And this is in the world of logistics and warehousing, which I still have a big passion for warehouse systems and how they work, etc. So that was interesting and fun. That led me from there into more and more project work and IT management. And as I mentioned, worked for Four Ports. So that was a big company, worked there 14 years. Worked my way up to the dizzy heights of IT manager for the whole of Scotland. Wow. And then there was redundancy then kicked in there, unfortunately, but actually it was a good thing. As often as opened up my eyes to a new world, and I thought, well, what do I want to do? And I thought, I like project work, I like doing that, so that's what I jumped into. And through an ex-colleague who rang me up and said, we need a cutover manager. Do you fancy joining us? I said, what's a cutover manager? And they said, well, you know that thing that you do when you implemented the ERP system? I went, right. And when you did the payroll system and the HR system, I said, yeah, that's what a cutover manager does. So that, I've never heard that before. And still today, it's not a heard word. Cutover manager, it's not well known. There you go. I think you'll work it out. So people, anyway, so that set me on the world, A, of contracting, and B, of formally becoming a cutover manager, and not looked back since. So it's great.
Definitely. So for everybody listening who will probably be unfamiliar with that term, as you just said, what is cutover management? How do you explain it to people?
Explain it. One of the key things I like to say is that it's the bit that joins everything together at the end. So project manager oversees the bigger picture. A cutover manager deals with all the details of that position or that point in time when you're transitioning from one system to the other. So what are all the activities that need to be, and the cutover manager orchestrates these activities. So it could be overnight, it could be over a weekend, it could be over a week. So you spend your first part of the time there building up what all the activities need to be: data migration, business readiness, interfaces, integrations, and all the characters and all the resources that need to be involved. From there, you build out a plan and you build out what we call run books. So this lists all the activities that are going to take place. It provides the timings for when they're going to happen, day or night, and the resources involved. And from there, you build in rollback plans if things go wrong, and you bring in the stakeholders as well as part of that. So my job is as a conductor, is to orchestrate all of those activities to see us through from project phase into your go live stage. So it's the bit that brings the glue that pulls that together. One thing that makes us different from a project manager is a project manager looks at the plans from left to right going forward. A cutover manager always works from right to left. So when is that date when you're cutting over and you want to get everything ready before then, as well as looking after them after they've cut over. So it doesn't end at the point when everybody claps and you're live. You then got the hypercare and monitoring afterwards. So it's that bit, but it's all the work leading up to that bit, and it involves everybody in the whole team as well. So it's really good fun. But I live for that 4 o'clock in the morning decision time when the hard work's coming to it.
So essentially what you do is introduce a lot of change into whatever teams or organizations you're working with. So what kinds of responses do you typically face from the teams and the leaders involved?
Yeah, well, you see a whole spectrum, to be honest, Laura. I mean, some of them are really excited about the change and embrace it straight away. They're the ones you want to identify, by the way. They're the ones that you need. But most of them are curious, concerned, how it's going to affect them, because it's a natural thing to do. How's it going to affect me? Am I going to be safe? Is it worth it? And then you get those that are totally negative as well. So you get the whole spectrum from the excited, the wannabes that will embrace it, to those that don't want to know, shun you, and well, you have to work really hard to bring them round. But it's those in the middle ground, curious, worried about what the change means for them and for how it's going to affect their workload. Nobody starts out to be in a project or a change program because they're doing their day job. So the first question most people is, well, I don't have time because I don't have time to do my day job, and now you want me to be part of a program and a project. So it's working through those sort of concerns as well.
You talk a lot on social media about the various elements of cutover management, and there's a lot of processes involved in that, both before, during, and after. But behind all of that is the leaders driving the change. You just said that you want to identify the people, who are enthusiastic, who are engaged, who are excited about it. What do you think are the most important characteristics and behaviours that leaders need when they're supporting that cutover or any sort of similar change event?
Yeah, I mean, any change really. I mean, the best ones are those that stay visible and engaged throughout the whole process. They're taken more seriously when they can see leaders actually be actively involved, not just hiding away on a steering group meeting, never to be seen again, sort of thing. They need to be able to make decisions quickly, because during the cutover bit as well, when things might not go to plan, or might need to make an extra call, you need a stakeholder there that has the confidence to make those decisions and guide us through it, sort of thing. Especially when tight timescales and things like that. You can't wait for a committee meeting. You sometimes have to move forward fast. But teams, it's I suppose that the leaders help. They can flag those gaps. They can identify and help and pull them all together, and stop the anxiety from the different groups and help that, and do some reassurance by being involved. As I said, staying visible and being engaged. So it's not about knowing everything that's going on. That's not what they're there to do. And it's the same with a cutover manager or project. You're not there to know every finite detail, but it's about being present and decisive, and therefore people will trust you.
Definitely. I think that's a big thing, isn't it? Because there's still this massive stigma amongst the leadership world anyway, with a lot of new leaders in particular, that they have to be the ones with all the answers.
Yeah.
So if you're involved in a change or a project or something like what you've described, if a leader doesn't feel like they know enough or know everything, they might sort of take that step back and not be as visible when actually they could be really visible, because just the fact that they're internally quite excited about what's coming is enough, isn't it, to get to help other people get on board with the
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah, no, exactly. Just as you say, being there and being part there. They don't have to. I mean, they employ people to be the experts, in their own fields. So that they're leading those experts to be able to do what they're good at and allowing them to do it. So it's giving them the freedom to allow that, but being there to help make the decision and guide in what the company is achieving or the program is supposed to achieve.
And I would say probably a big aspect of that is leaders encouraging other people to ask questions, because like you say, they're all experts in what they do. So your team members are going to have questions that you wouldn't necessarily have thought of as a leader. So if you can encourage them to just ask the project manager, the cutover manager, whoever's making decisions at that point, just ask those questions and get those answers, is much more likely to get them on board and be like, oh, okay, this is going to be okay. And actually, yeah, it is taking up a bit more time now, but look how much more efficient or productive I could be afterwards as a result of this.
Yeah, I mean, any transformation program, change program is for a reason, and it's remembering what that reason is. And this is where your leaders can play a big part, is because they were part of that decision. We're going to introduce a new ERP system. We're going to, it might not just be a system. It might be, we're going to move to a new building. It could be, that's change for anybody. We're going to break the company into two, which is a recent one I've just worked on. They're breaking it into two, and that's massive change, and they need to remind themselves and the rest of the employees and the team why they're making this change, and why it's beneficial and what the points behind it, and show that, and have to show confidence themselves in order to bring them down the lines into the groups.
I had a corporate client actually at the beginning of last year. So the coaching services that they'd booked with me actually got delayed because they were in the middle of a building move,
Right.
which took a little bit longer than planned. So when I sort of went to meet them properly for the first time, it was in person at the new building, and you could see that they'd moved in like days before. But you could also see how much they'd worked to get everybody on board, because a lot of stuff had gone wrong quite quickly.
Yeah.
Um, so, they'd got people on board with bringing equipment over, bringing computers and desks and chairs and all this sort of stuff over as quickly as possible, and working to get the office set up so that people could just sit down and do their jobs. They said, we'll do the decoration later. We can
Yeah.
we can fix that. But you know what I mean? Without that support from the team, I don't think they would have been half as successful with it as they were to get set up that quickly, given the circumstances at the time. So yeah, you can tell, can't you, when people have worked to get their team on board.
No, definitely. There's
Yeah.
nothing, but ultimately, you need to embrace the change. I always say this with teams, and I find if you embrace, you're always going to win. I think go in with the positivity, because you're not going to change it. That's one thing for sure. When the decision's been made, they're going for this change. You can be as negative as you want, but it's going to be here. So therefore, you're better off embracing, become the lead, become the face of the change as opposed to the negative, and it will see you right. It will see you good. Because that's what the rest of the team, the other leaders, are looking for. They're looking for these sparks and people to come forward, and make it work and make it good for them, and then they won't be forgotten.
So you've touched on it kind of already a little bit, but what is your general approach to teams, individuals, or leaders who perhaps are not as on board with the changes you're making as you need them to be? Those stubborn people that sit at the back and go, "Nope, this is the way we've always done it." How do you deal with them?
Yeah, it's understanding, as you say, what's holding them back. Why are they being that way? I mean, whether it's their fear about losing control, that's quite a lot. You see people roles change with new systems, especially that roles previously where we always go to such and such because they know it all and they know the system inside out, and now we're moving on to a new system and they are back to the level with playing field with everyone else. So it's understanding that, and how that's going to affect them. is it a lack of information? Can we're helped by it, as I say, going back, getting more information about what the change has been. And sometimes these people are affected by previous changes that have gone terribly wrong. So you talk to them basically and find out where they sit and they can learn from it. So once you understand that position, then it's about bringing them into the fold and making them part of the success. So with that, you've got to show empathy. You've got to listen. You've got to listen, show empathy, and then listen again. Share the rationale. And then one thing that I like doing is showing them where their little piece or jigsaw pieces fits into the bigger picture and why they are so important. I mean, when you're doing the cutover itself, the last big cutover I had 30 actors, as you call them, 30 people involved, not all at the same time, but different parts. And it was vital that they saw that if they didn't complete their bit, or they had problems, how it affects everybody else. And it's the same with a big transformation and a big change program. What is it that will make the difference with that person? And then hopefully their eyes will light up and go, yeah, I get that. I can be part of that. And without it, without all the jigsaw pieces, you haven't got the picture. It won't work. So.
And I do find the bigger the team, the bigger the company, the easier it is for people to feel like they're lost in the system, that actually what they do doesn't really matter,
Yeah.
isn't it? It's so easy to get in that mindset. And I've seen that happen quite a lot of times when they just say, well, no, they are going to happen.
Mm.
And it's like it's inevitable because actually I'm not going to put that much effort in, and mistakes are going to happen because I'm going to let them happen. That's a whole different mindset.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, people often get into that mindset because they think that there's such a small cog in such a large wheel that what they do can't possibly make a difference.
Oh, indeed. You also get, and this more on the leaders. If you've got troublesome leaders that won't engage, don't get involved, you do find that there's at some point there's this like balance on the seesaw and it tips, and they realise this is happening. Even they, because up until then they're not convinced, and so they're on the side, and no matter how much you try and engage them and bring them in, they just keep remaining on the side, and then it be a month, 2 months, 3 months, or whatever, at some point before there'll be a tip and then they'll be fully engaged. And you've got to be ready for that, because suddenly when they become fully engaged, everything else, or it's all about them. And you've got to control that and their teams and all that, because suddenly everybody's then involved. So you could go through months where, oh, this is okay, yeah, it's quiet, everything's happy and all that, and then suddenly bang, they all want to know and be involved and wanting your time and everyone's time, and that could really disjoint the progress that you made so far on it. So that's a key one to watch out for and try and manage that and control it. Not easy, not easy.
Yeah, I suppose that's another difficulty that can come up in these things as well, isn't it? Is when you've got multiple departments involved. And suddenly it's like, well, my department's more
Mm.
important than your department. They're trying to establish a hierarchy of whose department gets the most attention, the most time,
Yeah.
the most input, all this sort of stuff. The input is a big one because it's kind of like, well, our department's most affected by this change, so we have to input most of the decisions. And actually, they don't always see that each other has just as much impact. It's just in a different way when it
Yeah.
comes to change. How do you manage that when it's departments that are clashing?
Well, usually, again, it's the same. It's the same answer to all these. It's listening and empathy. So you're right. I always amazes me when I go into a new contract. On like the previous one, we always had difficulty with HR, but finance were great. You go into this one, and suddenly finance are giving you grief, and HR aren't. You know, oh god, I thought we got that one. But it's about bring them together, really. To be honest, get the two of them, or at the senior level, get them in and say, you're all as important. Understand each other, and they tend to come round if they understand each other and all that, and why it's important. Then they know. And again, coming back to the activities of the cutover, getting them to what bit is they responsible for filling that brings that whole picture. And once they see that it pulls together, if you pull together in all your different areas for the success, then you usually, they fall in line then.
Absolutely. Especially with the kind of changes that you deal with, because obviously it's usually one final click of the button and everybody's moved from one system to another. You have to have everybody in sync, don't you, to make sure that that happens, because it is a tight deadline. Often it is overnight when those changes happen.
yeah, the
Everybody's
control is
tired.
yeah, governance is key, and I use the phrase line by line, don't jump ahead. So when you've got your run book, which is list out activities, and it could be as detailed as you want, or vague, depending on what you're doing, what the cutover is, and the people doing it. But you never jump ahead, and you can have run books running together, where they can run concurrently, but you're always the master, is you do not jump ahead. And I've got plenty of examples where people have jumped ahead and we've had to roll back and it's caused problems. And that, again, and I'll probably touch on this later with dress rehearsals, that's why you rehearse. So to balance that out. But it's the controlling, they need to be clear that you are controlling, you are orchestrating. But because you've rehearsed it, because you've gone through it, because you've described it, and everyone, you can see the end. So it's not like a spoiler. You're not waiting. They can see, but they sometimes still want to, they get excited and go, oh, well, I'll just do task 54. And you go, no, 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 we're not ready. Slow down, go and get a coffee, wait, and your turn will come. Sometimes it does sound a bit childish when you're calling out, but it works. It's the only way it will work. You have to do it in a controlled manner.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a rule that I kind of tried to get people to establish with problem solving as well. Go through it properly, like really define the problem, understand all of its elements, who it's impacting, how it's impacting, all this sort of stuff. Gather as much information as you can possibly manage on it and do it as neutrally and objectively as you can possibly
Mm.
do. And it's only once you actually understand the problem from lots of perspectives rather than just your own that you see the full range of solutions, whereas I still see so many leaders jumping straight to the solution that they can see, but potentially what that results in is a plaster that's going to
Yeah.
fall off in 6 months and they have to start again. And it's because we've not gone to the root cause. We've simply just gone, well, that'll fix it. And we've jumped to the conclusion rather than working to understand. So again, it's don't jump to step 4 before you've done steps 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, another good example for what you just explained is negative brainstorming. So do the opposite. So a new ticketing system, and I can't buy a ticket, and go all the reasons why you can't buy a ticket, and then that brings out the positives, what you need to resolve. So I find that works well. And we
Yeah,
always
that's
do
quite very
the
good.
lessons learned as well from each one. So you never go into another rehearsal and or the cutover itself without having fixed the lessons from the previous ones.
What does change leadership mean to you then? And do you have any good examples of change leaders other than yourself?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, oh God, yeah, I have got a few good ones. The ones I personally like, the ones that roll the sleeves up and get involved. So that they're not standoffish. They take the call at 7 in the morning. So when you're doing rehearsals or when you're doing the real thing, but when you're doing rehearsals, I treat rehearsals the same as the real thing. And I explain this to the stakeholders at the beginning that I will present. It's a PowerPoint, wow, but I will present. This is the same presentation that I would do when we do this for real, guys. The only difference is when you do a rehearsal, I know it's going to fail. So just to set the expectations, and you give them the results. So you build their excitement for what they're going to achieve. So that we did a dress rehearsal, and it was over 24 hours, just to me, which is just a small rehearsal, and the meeting to explain the results and so on with the stakeholders. So what we would call the point of no return. So you have a go no go that you're going to do the dress rehearsal, and then you do the rehearsal or the cutover, and then you have a point of no return, and that's your 4 o'clock in the morning, because at that point you make the call that you're ready to go live and fix forward. So there's no rolling back, there's no second chances, and you need to present everything for the stakeholders. So the results, the data migration, the integrations, the physical, the resources are in place, or depending on what it is, there's a whole list. You present all of that back out to the stakeholders. And what you have is a preset of questions, maybe 10 questions that you've already agreed with the stakeholders before. So we want to hit 90% data migration success. If we go below that, it's a no-go. So we don't move forward. And so then you look for the results. So yeah, I'm speaking around in circles here. But essentially what you're trying to do is get their involvement. So now what makes the difference to me? So a leader that leadership, a good example is those that turn up at the rehearsal. So we had a rehearsal, 7 o'clock in the morning. I was gentle with them. It wasn't 4, it was 7 o'clock on a Saturday morning. Come to the team's meeting, I'll present the results. Invited 6 stakeholders, 2 turned up, right, at 7 o'clock. And one of them was my direct line manager as such for that contract. So I expected him to be there. But the person who did turn up was the COO, so the top guy. And him and this line manager, who was the IT director, they sat there, and I went, right, okay. We waited 5 minutes, and I said, and the CEO said, no, we're going for this. Go for it, Paddy. And I presented my case, and oh my God, I thought I would be home in the car traveling home. So no, they ripped into me, right? They ripped through every. So let's go back to slide 1. Why did that happen? How did that happen? Why did that happen? And all that. And I answered them, right? Because the point of a dress rehearsal, and I know I'm drifting slightly, is to rehearse all the options. And you don't want it to go right. You want it to go wrong, because then you learn from it. So why didn't that happen? Well, we didn't have the right resource. Oh, right. Okay. Why did that happen? Because we haven't spent time previously understanding the configuration required. Why did that happen? Because the software provider didn't tell us, blah, or whatever. And every question they had, that was it, give them different answers, bang, bang, bang. And the resources. And I said, but it got to the end and they said, right, okay, anything else? I said, yeah, there's only 2 of you here. I said, we would say, no, we cannot go with the decision just on you 2. Oh, right, but I'm the COO. No, I don't care, you're the COO. I didn't say it quite so, but I said, it needs to be that stakeholder decision. I said, and they said, yeah, we get that. I said, so what I want, because they said, what do you want us to do? And I said, I want you to go back and find out why they didn't come, and get them to come to the next one, because they need to be part of this and buy into this. I know it's Saturday morning, 7 o'clock, but you 2 are here and they haven't bothered. They knew about it, etc. But after ripping me and all that, they then gave me lots of praise and compliments. It was really nice, very emotional actually, because at the time, and that then builds me on, right, now we're going to do it for the next one, and you build on it. So yes, so to answer your question in a very long way, what makes a good change leader is those that get involved, get their sleeves rolled up, don't interfere, right, but involved. There's a very distinction. So they could turn up at 3 a.m. and provide the coffees or a McDonald's burger or whatever it is, and keep the team going. Be there, be seen, and be enthusiastic and want to be part of it. But don't interfere, because they're not generally there hands-on to do that sort of thing. So, but get that right. That makes a good leader.
Yeah, I mean, obviously with project execution, typically there is some sort of date. So, a specific day, a specific time when things are going to change. And like you say, you have to get people to embrace that change, because it is happening, whether they wanted to or not. It is going to happen. But at the same breath, it is that difference between involvement and interference, isn't it? You can't try to interfere with somebody's process of accepting change, but you can be involved in that process.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you about a leader many years ago, a guy called Alan Soper. I'm hoping he's still around. And I worked for a company called Links Express Delivery Network. So we were a parcel delivery company. And he brought in, wanted to bring in a culture change. And it was called the Gold Awards. And all the different depots around the country were tasked with simple things, making it clean, making it tidy, having non-cluttered notice boards, the area where the public could come in at a coffee machine, all these basic stuff, because it had gone awful. And then one of the key ones was answering the phone within 3 rings, and politely. And everyone dished it, and everyone was took the piss out of it and all that. And there was a bronze, silver, and gold award. And then they would send out mystery shoppers basically to go in and do this inspections, unannounced. And it took off. It was amazing to watch, because people started going, well, we've got bronze like that, our port's got. And if you got an award, you got a prize, and the prize could be that the company would pay for paint to paint up something, or provide a comfy couch in the restroom or something like that. And then you get to the gold level, you got a proper plaque and everything. And everybody got proud of what they were doing for their own area. And the 3 rings, I'll never forget, that gradually people just started doing it. It became a natural thing. And it just there was no fixed time, but at some point, and it took over a year, maybe 2 years, to go through the whole process of this culture change. But he got there. And then people answering the phone within 3 rings, and you could see his little glint in his eyes as he used to go around some of the depots and ports. That there was these night people were proud. They painted it all up, got the signs and all that, and treated. And that to me, that he just did that in such a great way, and he ignored all the negativity and just continued down the line. He knew it was the right thing to do and what he wanted to do, and supported with little help, prizes, etc. And he got it through.
That was one thing I really admired about my first full-time employer, and they probably still do, but they had a massive bonus structure that was made up of a few different elements, and one of them was mystery shopper visits. So you'd get 4 a month, 2 of them from your area manager and 2 from mystery customers, and you
Right.
had to get an average score of so much, and then for every like percentage or whatever over that you got, your bigger bonus you got basically. Um, but the whole thing around it was that we all get a bonus, or none of us do. It was everybody in together or not at
Yeah.
all. Because, and that I think is the aim of change leadership, is that it's just to get to this point where everybody's like, okay, we're all on board or none of us are doing this, because it's got to happen. But the only way it can happen is by all of us being there, all of us being ready, all of us being willing, even if some of us are still slightly more willing than others, to make the change, to go ahead, to press the button and just go.
Yeah.
To get past that go no go, and just be in it together, knowing we've got each other's backs. If we didn't get that bonus one month, everybody started digging in together to going, okay, why didn't we get that bonus? What went wrong?
Yes. No.
You know what I mean?
Yes. It's exactly that. Work as
Yeah.
a full team. Know what part you play in that team and what you can do. Don't worry about what other people can do. Worry what you do and make the difference for you. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, you've mentioned things like dress rehearsals quite a lot already today as a key element of good cutover management. What benefits do you see by doing a dress rehearsal in full, pretending it's the real thing?
Uh, you you do learn everything from a resource issues or concerns, environment issues, concerns. We got locked out. I've done a post about this. We got locked out one night, went for some fresh air at 2:30 in the morning. Fresh air. One of my colleagues smoked, so we went outside for a smoke. And then we tried to get back in the door and it was locked. And it was like, oh shit! And we've got this. And it was a dress rehearsal, but we had everything going on. And what do you do? Rang security. They came and let us in. And it turned out that the swipe cards were programmed not to work after 2:30 or some stupid time for no unknown reason. But we found that out at a dress rehearsal, so we got all the cards changed. So environment, make sure you got drinks, food, and all that. Resources, some people just can't go working on sociable hours, and you need to work out who those people are. Then either accommodate them, or you have to find alternative resource. Making sure you've got, in my case, I always have to make sure you've got paired up resources, because you can't rely on a single point of failure. So if they were to go run over by a bus, the classic, who's going to cover that off? So they need to work as a team to cover. And then for the actual cutover, then they can help each other, for time, to make sure they get enough rest, etc. But you're testing out the activities as well. The run book, make sure everything it does do what it says on the tin, that you got your timings right, and then you have various checkpoints throughout the session. So you're checking the communications is all there, and all of this should be done up front. This is the thing. People always think, oh, you're running around. No, it's actually quite boring during the cutover to a point, because you're just following a list. And if you get through it, great. You've tested it all before. You've proved it all. So you shouldn't be doing anything so critical. So it goes up. But it builds the confidence in the team as well. So they see from the start to the end. Now, the first one or two, they see it go, oh, it's a bit bad. But then you explain that that's why, and I've said this before. So before you start the second the dress rehearsal, on my presentation, the first is a list of all the things that went wrong on the first and what you've done to address them or mitigate them. So what you've done. So then the confidence is that, all right, so we can use the swipe cards. We haven't got the data migration bomb we had last time. Somebody didn't turn off the backup, or all the things that could have gone wrong. And you work through them, and then you build up a new list. But hopefully the list will get less, and more to the point, it will get less important. So they become minor issues. And then you know you're on the right track, and everything is as you'd expect. So yeah, build up that trust. It allows you to play it out in a controlled environment, and not quite the same as the real thing, but as near as damn it. So making sure everybody treats it as serious as that. But it's fun as well. You know, you get to know your colleagues a bit more because you spend a lot more time, close time with them. And it's amazing what stories people tell at 4 a.m. as well. So it's all part of that. So,
Yeah,
but
when
it's
the
good.
tiredness kicks in.
Yeah, but we can manage that as well. And people manage that in different ways. Everyone's unique, and that's part of what we were discussing before. Is understanding that individual person. We had a person that he really kicked off about having to work late and do all that, and we couldn't find a way around because it was important he did his role, and we said we can do it from home, and he didn't want to do it from home and disturb his wife and family. And then he suddenly said something, and I thought, right. I said, is it the driving? And he like admitted, he looked at, he didn't want to tell the world, but he spoke to me privately. And he said, yeah, he says, I'm not as good a driver now. And if I'm going home at 3, 4 in the morning, I'm tired. I said, well, sort you out a taxi. It's not a problem. Okay. And as soon as we said that, all his problems disappeared. And he was then fully involved and fully behind the change and what his role again was to do. And then off he went in a taxi and he didn't have to worry about driving home. So it's the little things sometimes that matter.
It's quite often a small solution when people have a problem with change.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just have to find out what it is, but it's yeah, that can be hard to discover sometimes. I have to ask though, I mean, because you told the story about, getting locked out at 2:30 in the morning. Is that the weirdest discovery you've ever had during a dress rehearsal?
Weirdest discovery. I suppose that was a slightly shit moment. I suppose the weirdest was not a dress rehearsal, it was the cutover. I did during COVID. We did and when this particular project, it was split into two. So we'd done a small version when we were all in the office, and so there was about 8 of us in the office. People actually New Zealand, London, teams in sort of different times. But then at the end of it, people came in on a Sunday evening. Stakeholders came in for the results, and then we did the results, and we took the decision to go forward, go live, fix forward, and then we celebrated. And we didn't have to do anything, a bit of prep work for the Monday morning, but there was time to go out and have a beer, and shake each other's hands and all that, and then back in the next day to monitor and post go live support. But when we did the big chunk of the work for that, we'd hit COVID, and I was sat where I am now, over from Friday through to Sunday night, and downstairs in the kitchen table when it was nighttime, up here when it was daytime, catching the odd hour sleep where I could. And I had my screens and I had my charts, but I didn't have the people. So we had open teams that wasn't the same, and we got through it. And then at the end of it, Sunday night, 9 o'clock, it was like, are we fixing forward? And we all clapped, like that. Did that. That was great. And then it was right. Thank you very much. And then somebody ended the teams meeting, and that was it. And you just sat there, and go, what now? And they're like, like that. And it was so downer. It was a bit of a downer, yeah. But we were very successful. We did, and then hypercare kicked in at 6 a.m. sort of thing. But that moment was lost, and I'd hate to do that again, where you just lose that moment. So,
it certainly sounds a little bit anticlimactic.
yeah. But no, the swipe cards. We've had Watergate, where I won't name the name, where somebody said not buying any more plastic water for you because it's bad for the environment. And this was at 3 a.m. I was like, okay. So I just went out and bought my own. Don't want to fall out with you over this. This is crazy. Yeah, I've had it once. The classic was sitting there 5 o'clock on a Friday evening, waiting to start the cutover. And I posted about this as well. And then I looked out, and on the main room, there was all these people just keying away. And I thought, what are they doing? They're not supposed to be on the system. I went out, and the thing that IT had put in place to stop them using the system after 5 o'clock had failed. And it turned out they also hadn't had the meetings, the communications, the emails, the team briefings, all of that. They hadn't they're just not bothered because it was dress rehearsal. They said, "Oh, we didn't think you needed to do that." I said, "Yeah." So that was an eye opener for them there, and so on. So yeah, but no.
It fascinates me when things like that happen because I sort of think, okay, so if I'm not getting any communication at all from anybody during this dress rehearsal, what am I dress rehearsing?
Yeah. Oh, treat it as the same. Treat it as the same. The only difference is you might make different decisions. So on that particular one, if that had happened in real life, when it was live cutover, we would have to have waited 24 hours before we could start again. And that would have jeopardized the whole thing. But because it was a dress rehearsal, we stepped back, we held an emergency meeting with the stakeholders. IT stuck their hand up and accepted it. And it meant we could carry on, but we knew the data was spoiled. So it had a knock-on effect that you'd never get 100% on the data, migration or reconciliation, things like that. But if that was a real thing, you would have said that was it. You've lost 24 hours because of this. So you've got to treat it as if it's real, and then let the mistakes happen. Let the issues come forward then, and that's the only way you'll get it right on the night.
So, what do we all need to do after a change has been made? Like, do we follow up in any way, or are there any general processes you'd recommend for any leader after any change that's been made?
Go to the pub. No. Go to the pub later. That's right. But you should celebrate. At some point, you should celebrate. And many cutovers never get celebrated because they're bang into hypercare. But yeah, you can't, it doesn't end there. So part of cutover job is business readiness, making sure they're ready in all the different areas. And one of those areas is hypercare and getting that process sorted, get the shifts in place, get who needs to be around. You need stakeholders as 10 24 hours. So you need to split them up so they can make decisions quickly and fast and efficient. So you've got to have the hypercare period or early learning care. There's all different terminology for this, but basically have a group of people that are looking after the system or new process or whatever it is that you've introduced and able to help and support. And agree it all before. So do you need floor walkers? Do you need 24-hour care? Do you just need 9 to 5 care? Do you need stakeholders there? What do you need? And I've seen it all from people walking around with t-shirts saying, ask me a question to support new systems, or it's been very minimal, a couple of hours and then they're on their own sort of thing. BAU, business as usual, comes in. So you just got to be ready. But one key thing is know what your exit clause is. What's your exit plan? So from project mode, cutover mode, hypercare, when are you exiting the project? And have that all agreed before as well. There's no point trying to guess it before, guess it at the time, because you're too in the midst of it. So have it agreed before. Is it the number of tickets that are raised? Is it P1, P2 incidents? If they're just minor P3 on a systems front, is it that whatever it is, have it all agreed beforehand so that then your exit and plan it so that you can hit it. But then I suppose you've got the lessons learned, just like a dress rehearsal. Take your lessons learned while it's still in people's fresh in memories. And people say, well, why? We're never going to do this sort of transformation again. You might not do the same transformation again, but you guarantee you will be going through some sort of change or transition later. So it's always good. And it's just helps people like recover from it as well. We had that major problem. We had to delay by 24 hours. Paddy, how could we? And let people talk about it in the safety after the event. So they're not running around as headless chickens at the time or worrying about it. Now it's done. We got through it. Was that did we get through it in the right way? Did we actually do it? Could we have done it better? And then why did it happen to start with? What went wrong there? Why was that different from all the dress rehearsals? You then did something different on this day. And I am speaking from experience here, which pushed us back we ended up taking an extra 24 hours because they changed how they wanted to do something during cutover. And it was like, really? And it was outside of my control, so I couldn't stop it. But unfortunately, delayed us by 24 hours. So yeah, it's taking all of that. But make sure make sure that you recognize the effort that people have made, put into the whole program from the start to the finish. Don't just pack your books and on you go. So they are quite intense, the whole thing. So as we know, so lots of thank yous, lots of speeches, and make sure everyone gets a pat on the back and well done. And then you can go to get some sleep.
Absolutely. Or down the pub. I think I'd prefer the pub.
Yeah. Don't just terminate the Teams meeting and go, right, that's it.
No, I have to say, I think that's probably the strangest kind of change, really, isn't it? Is that everything's so anticlimactic now because it's all online. Like everything's just all teams meet virtually and all this kind of thing, and things are just cut off. Like I was sat on furlough for most of 2020, so all meetings we had they were online and we were used to that anyway because we were already a remote team. Every meeting obviously was a much bigger meeting with a lot more people involved, most of the time. To just have everything cut off, even when we had successes in getting the business up and running again, even when we had people coming back to work, even when we had accounts rejoining us, all this other thing. It was really challenging to feel like anything was successful or worth celebrating because meetings were just ended.
Yeah,
You know.
it's funny, isn't it? It's thinking back now. It's hard to believe. I mean, I love the compromise is the wrong word. The hybrid approach, I suppose, is the right word. My last contract was just finished, 5 months down in London, but I only went twice. Only needed to go twice. But when I did go, it was great. It was great to have that one to one, and closeness and chit chat. That doesn't happen as much on Teams. You try, but it's never quite the same as being in a room and just putting your coffee cup down and talking about whatever the person in front of you. You don't get that same. We tried it in Teams. You'd have open Teams chats, but it's never quite the same. So yeah, it's a funny world still at the moment.
Mm,
But I'm not
definitely.
against Teams or remote working at all because I wouldn't get many jobs if I was against that. So
No, I agree. I mean, I've been a remote slash flexible slash hybrid worker for the last 20 years, so it's it's nothing new to me.
no,
Um, but yeah, I still kind of need a mix. I mean, I'm quite an introverted personality anyway, so working at home suits me, but I can't do it all the time. I still
no.
need that interaction with people, and obviously I get a lot of that online, as I am right now. But yeah, sometimes just working with clients in person or doing training days in person and things like that, they do make a difference. It just gets me out of the house. It's a different environment, isn't it? To just, yeah, I like the hybrid approach because I think you get a nice balance of both. When you need to have online meetings, they are productive and focused and all this sort of stuff. And then when you see each other face to face, you've got time for that coffee, you've got time for that sort of more personalized chat. You get a nice mix of both
The
rather than
water
having to
cooler
be one or the
moment.
other.
Yes, you see, you don't get the
Yeah.
water cooler moment, do you, as much? But sometimes I do. I just pick up the phone and talk to people. Oh my god.
It might be something you've already mentioned, but what do you think is the number one lesson that all leaders should take away from cutover management? What is it that we can learn from you?
Embrace it, be part of it. Don't just write it off as just something that needs to happen. Is the key part. I mean, everything's key. So be part of that process. Have your bit to play. Understand it where you do fit in, what your role is. I ask leaders to do that. Understand what they bring to the table. Be a finance leader, operations leader, or the COO. And then when we need you, be there for your teams, for your employees, because us in program world, project world, yeah, we move on to the next one, sort of thing. But to make this a success, you've got to carry it through afterwards. So be part of that. So be part of the success, and then be part of it going forward.
Paddy, you've got so much enthusiasm. I love your social media posts. I think they're brilliant. And you bring so much knowledge and experience to the table about cutover management and project management and all the other things that you do. If people out there wanted to find you or learn more about what you do, or if they think they might need your services, where can they find you, connect with you?
LinkedIn is the best place. Get me on LinkedIn. Just look up Paddy Roberts. Yes, I do like my posts. Yes, I am available immediately. Looking at markets going through a funny time at the moment, so we're trying to work on that one. But yeah, if I can help, then definitely get in touch. I'd like to help the other way around. It's good fun. I enjoy it definitely.
Absolutely. And I will put the link to your LinkedIn in the comments, in the description section, sorry, for this episode. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you today, Paddy. You have helped a lot of organisations make significant changes in the way they work and to their systems, and you always bring great humour and a smile to help others learn and understand more about what you do. I hope you've enjoyed being a guest on the podcast today.
Yes, thank you. Been an experience.
Excellent. I'm glad to
I
hear it.
embraced it. I embraced it. There you go.
Yeah, there you go. You embrace some change. Learning as we go. It's been an insightful and empowering conversation. Thank you so much for coming on. Let's go to the pub.
Yep.
Until next time, everyone.